When the world's most powerful economies gathered in Johannesburg for the 2025 G20 summit, Eritrea's absence was no accident. Eritrea, perched on the Red Sea coast, was deliberately left off the guest list, a decision loaded with diplomatic and political meaning. The empty chair where Eritrea might have sat tells a story about the country's unique path and the priorities of South Africa, the summit's first African host. Understanding Eritrea's exclusion is key to grasping Africa's current geopolitical landscape. The G20 is where global rules are debated and alliances are forged. Being absent means having no voice in these critical conversations. Eritrea's non-invitation raises questions. Is it self-reliance now isolation? How do its tense ties with Ethiopia affect its global standing? What does this say about South Africa's vision for Africa? Eritrea's strategic location in the Horn of Africa makes its absence even more striking. The country borders the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, a choke point for global trade, and its actions impact regional stability. Excluding Eritrea suggests that for summit organizers, the risks of its participation outweighed its geopolitical importance. This is a window into the unspoken rules of international diplomacy. Eritrea's absence is more than a missing delegate. It's a case study in the costs of absolute sovereignty in an interconnected world. The empty chair in Johannesburg symbolizes the challenge for nations that defy global norms. They may keep their independence but lose their influence. To understand Eritrea's absence, we need to look at how the G20 works. The G20 is the world's top forum for economic cooperation, representing over 80% of global output. Each year, a different member hosts the summit, setting the agenda and choosing which non-members to invite as guests. These invitations are powerful diplomatic tools, allowing the host to spotlight allies or highlight regional issues. For guest countries, an invitation is a rare chance to influence global policy. In 2025, South Africa, the G20's only permanent African member, held the presidency and hosted the summit in Johannesburg. The guest list reflected South Africa's vision for Africa's role in the world. Who was invited and who was not sent a clear political message. Eritrea, not a G20 member, could only attend if South Africa extended an invitation. The process is complex. Hosts balance national interests, regional dynamics, and the preferences of other G20 powers. They seek guests who can contribute constructively and avoid those who might bring controversy. Eritrea, for many reasons, did not fit the profile of an ideal guest for this historic summit. As the first African host, South Africa faced pressure to use its platform for the continent's benefit. Instead of inviting individual African nations, South Africa prioritized African institutions. The African Union, now a permanent G20 member, and the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat were key invitees. This strategy aimed to present a united African front and strengthen the continent's multilateral bodies. By inviting organizations, South Africa emphasized integration and cooperation over competition among states. This left little room for individual countries to be invited based on their own circumstances. Eritrea, though an AU member, has a strained relationship with the body and is skeptical of deep economic integration. Its self-reliant economic model doesn't align with the AfCFTA's vision of open markets. Inviting Eritrea would have clashed with South Africa's goal of highlighting Africa's progress toward unity. The guest list was about promoting a vision of collaboration and shared governance. Eritrea, historically skeptical of such arrangements, simply didn't fit. G20 hosts want smooth, controversy-free summits. Countries embroiled in regional conflicts are often seen as risky guests. In late 2025, the Horn of Africa was tense, with Eritrea and Ethiopia at odds over Red Sea access. Eritrea's growing ties with Egypt and shifting alliances heightened the risk of diplomatic drama. Inviting Eritrea could have provoked Ethiopia and complicated South Africa's relations with key partners. The summit aimed to showcase African unity, not air regional grievances. Excluding Eritrea was a pragmatic move to keep the focus on economic cooperation. In high-stakes summitry, diplomatic complexity is a liability, one South Africa chose to avoid. Eritrea's foreign policy is built on self-reliance, forged during its long struggle for independence. This means minimizing foreign aid, avoiding entangling alliances, and maintaining a skeptical stance toward multilateral institutions. Eritrea rarely seeks invitations to global forums. Its leaders often skip major international events by choice. The government views such gatherings as arenas where powerful nations impose their agendas. This self-imposed isolation means there was little internal or external pressure for a G20 invitation. Eritrea's sovereignty-first approach means it does little diplomatic lobbying for inclusion. Without advocates pushing for its participation, Eritrea was an easy country to overlook. South Africa faced no diplomatic cost in excluding it. Eritrea itself was unlikely to protest, as that would contradict its narrative of indifference. Self-reliance, while protecting sovereignty, makes Eritrea easy to ignore in global settings. When the G20 sought engaged partners, Eritrea's preference for standing apart made exclusion obvious. The G20 is, above all, an economic forum. Guest invitations often go to countries with significant or rapidly growing economies. Eritrea's economy is small, state-controlled, and minimally integrated with global markets. Its main exports are minerals, but overall trade is limited. Eritrea's economic philosophy prioritizes independence over integration. It's not a WTO member and is slow to embrace regional trade. This stands in contrast to the G20's ethos of open markets and global interconnectedness. Other African nations with larger, more dynamic economies were far likelier candidates. Eritrea's small, closed economy simply doesn't warrant a seat at the G20 table. Eritrea's self-reliance is a source of national pride and political autonomy. By avoiding foreign aid and loans, it has maintained independence and resilience. This approach has fostered internal cohesion and some social achievements, but the same policy also leads to economic and diplomatic isolation. Eritrea misses out on investment, trade, and technology that could drive development. Its closed model can stifle innovation and job creation. Suspicion of outsiders hinders diplomatic engagement and alliance building. The G20 summit shows the cost. Eritrea forfeits a voice in shaping global rules. Self-reliance keeps others from dictating policy, but also limits Eritrea's influence. Eritrea remains sovereign, but the world moves on without its input. In global capitals, Eritrea is seen as a wild card, diplomatically unpredictable and fiercely independent. Its history of confrontational foreign policy and disputes with neighbors makes major powers cautious. Eritrea's strategic Red Sea location means it can't be ignored, but deep engagement is rare. For summit hosts, inviting Eritrea risks controversy and complicates relations with other G20 members. The recent US travel ban on Eritrea underscored its complicated standing. G20 hosts prefer reliable, cooperative guests, not unpredictable actors. Eritrea's reputation for disruptive diplomacy worked against it. These summits are about consensus, not confrontation. Eritrea's unpredictability effectively disqualified it from the Johannesburg summit. Eritrea's absence from the 2025 G20 summit was due to 5 interlocking reasons. First, South Africa's focus on inviting African institutions, not individual states, left Eritrea out. Second, regional tensions, especially with Ethiopia, made Eritrea a risky guest. Third, Eritrea's self-reliant, low-engagement foreign policy meant no push for inclusion. Fourth, its small, closed economy made it irrelevant to G20 economic discussions. Finally, its reputation as an unpredictable actor sealed its fate. Eritrea's sovereignty remains, but its voice was silent on this global stage.